I bought a generator. The age-old questions then of dirty generators and van life. Are they actually a match made in heaven or a match made in hell? But before we get into the whys and what fors and all this kind of stuff, let's talk about the generator itself. Quick review of it. Do think it's a good generator, and the reason why I chose it was because of some of the features and everything on it. So yeah, let's get it unboxed and get it set up and, you know, start it up and do all that kind of stuff, and then we'll talk about why I spent 400 quid on a generator for my camper van. So the first thing we need to do is fill it up with oil, or top it up with oil. I think it comes with a little bit inside. So just unscrew these two clips on the side of the panel there. The panel drops down and that gives us access to top it up with the oil. The filler is right down there. So we've got to use this funnel provided. And there is a hole under there, which you can just about see. So if you overfill, it's going to drop out. So I just put a plastic lid top underneath there, so that if anything does spill out there, I can catch it so it doesn't spill on the table. Undo the little drain plug. Now it says top up the oil. So yeah, there is a little bit of oil in there. What it says to do on these is lay it on a flat surface, so you don't screw the plug back in. You just dip it in there, and then you'll see how much oil it's got and how much you need to top it up. Drop that filler in place and top it up with a bit of oil, whilst keeping an eye out that it doesn't flow over. You can just see in there that the oil's just started to seep out. So that's the upper level. So time to put the bung back in place and make sure that that's clean under there, because what I don't want is the smell of burning oil as I'm running the generator. A little bit of sound deadening on the side there, so looks like it clips in down there, and then it's got some locator pins that kind of hold it in place, and then just these two screws at the top. So that's the filler cap. You have got a breather on there as well, so when you're running it, have it on, and when you're not running it, put it to off, and that means then the vapors won't come out of the fuel tank. So if you're like me, you'll be storing it inside. It means the vapors won't smell out the inside of the camper van. And what I like about this as well is it's got a fuel gauge there. So we've got some petrol. I'm going to fill it up and then go through the starting procedure. So just thought I'd show you the quick spec on this. 4-stroke petrol, unleaded fuel, and yeah, it's pure sine wave inverter with a total output of 1900 watts, 1700 watts continuous, 4-litre fuel tank, which they reckon will run for 6 hours. There's also a little inspection panel there to check and replace the spark plug. So for maintenance wise, there's that side panel, so you can access the oil and the air filter, and then obviously for maintenance of the spark plug, you've got this access panel on top too. It is a pull start, so it's not you know, a sort of electric motor start or anything like that. It's a pull start system. So yeah, very reliable. A nice little base on there, nice rubber feet as well, so that hopefully that will stop any vibrations, and just a really sort of sturdy, well built you know, sort of feel to it all as well. So yeah, quite happy with it. So yeah, that's in there, and that'll obviously help catch any contaminants or anything like that before you pour your fuel in. So I topped it up, which is about 4 litres capacity, and just had the fuel level just so it was touching that little filter, the white insert that I was just showing you then. I did notice though that the fuel gauge, the fuel level gauge that I showed you earlier, didn't seem to move as I was topping the fuel up. So it will move at some point. I'm presuming it's electronic, so we need to get it running and then we'll check it then. Right, tighten that up. Remember, we want the vent to on so that it can suck through the fuel. Now we're going to go through the startup procedure. Turn the fuel dial on, so this is on, so that's fuel on. Set the engine switch to on, engine switch on. Pull out the choke lever, which is that one. Pull recoil to start engine, and grasp firmly. And there you go. As easy as that. So to stop, it's that. Fuel off. And yeah, there we go. That was how easy it was. I think that was pretty easy. What we do need to do now then is plug it into my van and put some load on there and see what it's like under load. Obviously right now the microphone and the camera are right next to it. So although that sounded loud to me and you listening to it, it's whether that is loud in reality once you get it under the van, plugged in, and then walk away. So my first test was to plug in my power station, and in the back of the power station is also my HAB battery charger. So it's going to charge two devices at the same time. Nice and stiff, just the way we like it. Right, so we've got to check that again. It's on. And to do economy off, just so it goes on to full power straight away. Fuel to on. So no, it didn't need choke. So just to confirm, that is now charging at 1800 watts. So there's 2 hours to charge. And that's the noise it's got now. So anticipating smelly oil and smelly petrol and that, I got a really useful box, 35 litre one. So I can store all my other stuff in there as well. So I can put my AdBlue in here, my engine oil, gearbox oil, all the other kind of things that I need. So that's all in there. So hopefully that means I won't get any smells from the little petrol can inside the van. If I do, then I'll put it on top of my van, along with the spare jerry can I've got for diesel. And then this just fits in the van. So probably what I do most of the time is put the generator a little bit more out of the way, as long as we're not around people, we're not going to use it to annoy people or anything like that. So then I can use this extension lead and then charge it up that way, so that as long as no one else is being bothered by it, we don't have to be bothered by it as well. And as far as weight wise, it's fairly easy to pick up. It's not heavy-ish. It feels probably about the same, if not maybe a tiny bit more, as the little power station that Mandy's got. So yeah, in all fairness, that was one of the things that I was rather liking about it, is that it will blend in camoed, apart from the noise. And obviously, yeah, it's easy to use, nice and reliable, hopefully. And that's that. So I just want to get an idea of what the noise is like. So if we were to be charging our vans, this is the noise level. So it seems like Mandy's is a bit louder than mine. So somewhere in the middle. And then we'll walk back a little bit. So to charge our batteries, This would be going on for an hour, 2 hours maybe, every couple of days. So put the Jenny on. It's not on eco mode, so it's kind of like a rough replication. Then we'll walk back a bit. So what I'm going to do now is plug in our vans to get them charging, and then see if that increases any at all. So that is now charging. Obviously it's the noisy end of it, which I figured is comparable to the two engines running. And that's now pulling roughly 1800 watts. So it's almost maxed out. That's at full capacity. So if we come back out of the way a bit. So that's probably about sort of, I don't know, 5 meters away. The noise has dropped down quite a lot. I wouldn't normally run it there. I'm just doing this for testing, just so you can see the noise levels. So it's now hidden over there. And I'm using our campsite hookup connection, just so we've got proper RCD breakers protection on there. So that's the same power, so it's running max out. We've got one cable going to Mandy's van, another cable going to mine, and yeah, everything is on charge. And obviously just a test now at this kind of distance. Like I say, it is on full power. So get away from the noisy end of it. And you can see the dB meter still picking up on the noise of it, but the level has dropped quite a lot. And now inside my van, you can see there obviously my voice over the noise of the generator. And I can tell you that if I was having my engine running right now, that's probably about the same noise level. Bearing in mind my engine would only be doing half the charging that's doing already, because that's charging 2 vans worth of systems, whereas my engine would just be charging just my van. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, we'll work out the economics in a bit, but at the end of the day, the noise level's the same, give or take. But the economics of this, I think, are where it wins at a certain time of year where you're not getting the charge from solar, and we don't want to go and driving, you know, again, which uses diesel, and obviously just having the vans on idle for a couple of hours is also a cost, and it's obviously more costly to have the van running on idle than it is to have that Jenny going. So there we go. So that's going to be charged quite soon, because we're already up to about 34 minutes it's saying. So between both vans and everything that needed charging, it was running for roughly about 90 minutes or so before we shut it off and then let it cool down for a little bit. So I thought I'd measure the noise of the diesel heater. So at least now we know whether that's as noisy as running an engine or a Jenny. And that is on full right now, so it's quite cold and I've just switched it on. We've just been back from a bike ride. So it is on max power, trying to get the van nice and warm. And then I thought I would just record ambient. So no engines, no diesel heater, no generators. Just the sound of what's around here. So we can then understand from all the readings we've taken what the difference is. So the little fuel gauge on top's really good, it's on full. So we've got full and empty, and it's all the way over on full. So it'll give you a good indication. It was a 4 litre tank inside, so there is 1 litre left in my jerry can there. So that should give 6 hours of running, which is way more than enough for what we've got to charge regularly. And this is where it's living in my van. So as you can see, it's only a little bit taller than a really useful box, a 35 litre really useful box. Kind of the same width, roughly the same dimensions on the depth, whichever way you consider width and depth. A little bit taller on the height, probably about that much taller on the height. Well, yeah, I can get, just so you're interested anyway, tools, electrical bits, spare parts, and then that new box on the top there is all my fluids, you know, oil, clutch fluid, brake fluid, the AdBlue stuff, and now some petrol as well. So it all fits in there, and I've still got loads of room in my boot. I know, I've got loads of solar on my roof, and I drive a camper van that's got B2B in it. So why do I need a generator? Well, we don't have the best weather in the UK, and during winter months you don't get the best amount of opportunities for solar, even if the weather isn't grey and dull and boring or snowing or raining. So unless you're willing to drive often and far, it becomes a problem. So you might be asking, well, why have you got a generator, John? Surely you just get some more batteries in your van. Yeah, I mean, I could put 1,000 amp hours of batteries in my van. I've got the space for it. I'm not too sure I'd want to go for a drive for 12 hours there to charge them back up. And during the winter months, there's not enough solar to charge them back up or even keep them charged every day. So yeah, I'm using a lot of power, charging camera batteries, charging laptops that I use, diesel heater, you know, sort of toilet extraction fans for the composting toilet. Yeah, a lot of power. Obviously I cook on electric as well, which is the biggest use of power. So you might say, well, get gas in your van or get a gas burner stove or something like that, and that'll reduce your power needs. Yes, those are all valid options. However, not for me, thanks very much. I'm going to stick with the plan. And that's where the generator comes in. So if I did get, say for example, you know, 1,000 amps of battery in there, yeah, it might last me 2 or 3 weeks when I don't need to charge. But then I would need to go for a very long drive to charge it. Bear in mind, don't do campsites, so I'm not going to rock up to a campsite, and even then 30 amp mains charge or whatever, I'd still be trying to charge the batteries for hours and hours and hours and hours. So it's no real point putting that much power, amp hours, into your van without a realistic quick charge solution. So what I've always said is put enough battery in there that'll last you a week normally. In sunny conditions it should hopefully, you know, with solar on the roof, just never end. But in winter conditions that's not the case, sadly. So put enough amp hours in there that'll give you, you know, a few days worth of power. Solar on there to give you a chance, B2B to give you a chance as well. And the realistic sort of like, situation you're going to find yourself in winter is that you've got to keep driving every day or every other day to keep that charge back in the battery and top them back up, or get a generator. Obviously I'm trying to charge 2 vans, so I've done some sort of calculations to compare the running cost of running the engine on 2 vans to keep those batteries charged up, and also the running cost of this generator running for a few hours to keep both vans charged up. And I want to point out straight away, I've previously talked about how dirty and smelly and noisy generators are. So first of all, I'm going to talk about this generator. This cost me £400 from Amazon, just under 400 quid from Amazon. And why did I choose it? I was slightly attracted to the camo look. I did look at all the Honda generators and loads of other reviews of other generators. The Honda generators are very expensive, but yes, they are quiet, but they're only quiet because they operate on lower revs. Yeah, this doesn't kind of add up for me to spend all that extra money on a Honda generator if I'm going to be putting loads of load on this to charge batteries and everything else. So it's going to be running at quite high revs anyway. So I thought I'd skip that. I'm going to buy something that works for me in my price bracket, with enough power for me, and is compact, small compact. I mean, like I say, this is about the size of a 35 litre useful box. On eco, it will only kind of like rev up to the power needed, otherwise it will drop the revs back down. So I've got about half a tank left of 4 litres, and we've run it 3 days, not for every day, but on 3 days we've run it, and we've run it for about, I think it's been about 2.5 hours. So yeah, it's got loads more running power left, and that's kept us both fully topped up. So after a couple of days you think, oh, the batteries are down to sort of like I don't know, 60%. So run it for a couple of hours and then they get topped up again. It tops up both our hab batteries and our power stations as well. So it's basically running maxed out for those 2.5 hours every other day or whatever. But yeah, I really like it. I like the design, I like the simplicity. It's been rock solid reliable. With the oil added and the full tank of fuel, weighs about 24 kilos. So yeah, as long as I can put fuel in this when we've got no solar, then we'll be all right for power. So what are the economics of running this rather than running 2 van engines to recharge us? Bear in mind, like I say, this can charge both our van batteries and both our power stations. So it's providing us both with the power we need, as opposed to running the van engines. So running this for £5.76, that gives us, like I say, probably in realistic terms, about a week and a half to 2 weeks of full power in the van. And all the maintenance and everything is all, contained, all the maintenance costs, extra wear and tear is all contained within this unit. But before I bought the generator, I worked out it cost us around about £12.16 to run both vans to generate power, but that was only for 6 days. But obviously you've then got all the issues of maintenance on the van, of the engine sat there idling and everything else. Now, fair enough, you do get heat from the engines when you're running the engines. That's the only downside, is this doesn't provide us with any additional heat. Although, heat does come out the back, but you have to have it in a well ventilated area. So let's talk about smells. And the additional fuel can that I'm carrying around, and does that smell because it's all being carried around in the garage of my van. Like I say, now a couple of weeks of using this, and so far the little petrol can sits in a really useful box with the lid shut. No smells come out of that whatsoever. It's not airtight either, it's just that it's doing its job really well. And this sits under my bed at the back of the garage, and it's got a little valve on the top there, which allows you to have vented cap when you're running it, so it allows the flow of fuel to come through, or it shuts the vent off, so no fumes can come out of this while you're carrying it around or while it's being stored. And after I've run it, I leave it outside for about an hour and a half, wait for it to cool down, and then put it in the back of the van, and I can't smell anything from this either. So obviously the exhaust and the engine getting hot and everything else doesn't leave any residual smells once it's cooled down, sits in my van. So I am getting no adverse smells from either the generator nor the petrol can being in my van. So if we don't have to move, if the weather is that bad where it's dangerous to move or it's silly to move, the only reason we need to run the engines then is to get power. So this now works really well for that. One thing I will say for it is it also gives extra peace of mind that it's another backup. So it's a bit like the fact that we've got in my van, you know, there's an electrical setup with an inverter, but I've also got a power station in there as well. So I've got a backup, and this is the backup to my backup essentially. It's the reason why I carry, you know, ropes and winches and max tracks and snow socks and extra fuel cans and extra solar panels and spares and extra diesel heaters. Once you're living in a vehicle full time, things go wrong, and as you've seen from where I go, I like to go adventuring, like to go out of the way, so it's not always possible to get things that you need to keep going. So to carry this around as an additional backup for me makes perfect sense. Also, if we're with other people who are short on power, then obviously they can just plug straight into it as well, and we can run it for them, which has happened quite a lot actually. There's many occasions where I've run a lead out of my van to another van to charge them up, because they've had a problem with their charging system not working. So yeah, having something like this works a treat. So yeah, so I paid £399.99 for this, and yes, I think it's worth it. So if you do like what I've shown you and you are interested in this little generator inverter, I'm going to put a couple of links in the video description down below. They are affiliate links whereby you buy the item, I get paid commission, but you don't pay any more for the item than you would otherwise if you had gone to eBay or Amazon or whatever and bought it yourself. So far, answered everything, you know, that we wanted it to do. We just have it running. You don't really hear it inside the van. It just runs everything. You know, you can hear when it's sort of like slowing down because of the eco mode, that everything's charged up in the van. So quick check on the power apps, everything's charged up, and then just, you know, switch it off, put the vent to off, wait for it to cool down, put it back in the van. Easy. The age-old questions then of dirty generators and van life. Are they actually a match made in heaven or a match made in hell? I have been guilty of saying, you know, oh, dirty generators, they get that noisy thing away from my van and all this judgmental stuff. And ultimately, the benefits of having a petrol generator are, yeah, are significant, especially if you do winter van life, especially you know, with the British weather that we get, and especially if you don't want to be constantly on the move and traveling around, or you don't want to put all the extra strain and maintenance problems on your van engine. Little portable Jenny. Oh, me and Jenny. Oh, new love of my life. I could make some Forrest Gump quotes and things like that about Jenny, but I won't do. Right, thanks for watching folks. Take care. I'll see you again. Bye.